We are live.
Hey.
Hello. How's it
Oh,
going,
so you've got a
everyone?
guitar in the guitar stream. Yeah, pretty well, thanks. Good to see you all. Good to see you, chaps.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome back, viewers, listeners. We are. Oh, yeah, I can see it now. All.
We are live.
Oh,
Oh,
how unprofessional is that?
I
was that
can
me?
hear you, Dan.
Was that me? Wait, where did that come
It
from?
was. That was.
It's
Hands.
definitely you, Dan.
Oh,
Oh, is it
Oh no,
BB?
no, it was me. I was. I was had the on my other computer. I had it on, and and because we don't edit this anymore, that will just have to live forever in episode 187
you get double downed in
history.
the first 10 seconds, you lucky people.
Dub- Double damned.
Both barrels.
Oh,
Dan.
I'm double damned this week. I've seen you that's twice in 1 week. We'll
So,
talk about
I
that in
wish to
just a
know.
moment. But how you doing, Tom?
I'm all right. I'm a bit tired. It's half term.
Yeah,
Kids off school.
Ah,
juggling kids.
Juggling kids, yeah. So I've had two of them here today. So it's been interesting and fun. But yeah, other than that, not too bad.
Yeah,
full
cool.
time.
Dan, how are you?
The actual parenting thing, full time. Did you run out of activities, or are you good?
Well, because there's two of them, you don't need to run out of activities because they can entertain each other. But yeah, we did make a gingerbread Halloween house today and decorate it.
Nice.
And there's half a door and a bit of roof left, and that's it. It's all been
Nice.
eaten. And it was terrifying when we finished it, but not because it was Halloween scary. It just looked horrific.
I mean, you know, the decrepit kind of falling down haunted house vibes. That's what you're after, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. You should have
You know
seen
what I
the
mean?
spider that she
We-
created.
we-
Just some black icing splodge. It was amazing.
We're
If it
getting
was
some
like,
jump scares from Tom's webcam to just like zooming in.
Yeah, getting seasick.
Yeah, sorry, it's moving. I've got to get center
No.
stage zooming in because it's otherwise well, I'll show you. I'm miles away. Hang on. Whoa.
That's kind of amazing that it looks as good as it does when it's zoomed in, though. That's
Yeah, it looks great. It's good.
because that still looks really. That's really impressive.
And I've got my Ardner Ho t-shirt on.
Nice.
Nice.
Newest whiskey distillery on Isla.
It is indeed. They've got another one out, haven't they? Their core range now. Their first of their cores are out.
The first one is very good indeed.
This is not the whiskey hour; it is the guitar hour. So, Dan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm back to teaching and stuff. I was off today just because one of the schools I work in is a posh school, so they have different half terms. So I'm back in properly, I guess, tomorrow. What have I done? I've done quite a lot of bass gigs actually. 2 last weekend, and one. I've got one. What day is it? What day is it? Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I had to look then as well, Dan. It's Tuesday.
Oh, no idea. Actually, I've reinstated my watch that has the day on it. I could have looked at that. It's so mad because I've started wearing a watch again just because I don't want to be looking at my phone all the time. But I'm not used to it yet. So if I'm trying to check the time, I'll still look at my phone.
Looking at that watch, I'm pretty sure you can't ask Siri what day it is.
You cannot.
Don't
It does. Yeah, it does
invoke
say Tuesday 29th on it though, which I think is.
Don't invoke her. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
She's gone full
Everything-
AI in my house.
Everything fires up, which is not.
Yeah, so I've got another bass gig on Thursday, which is it's been fun. The being in the bass chair is interesting because in one sense it's like easier in a way because there's sort of less notes, but I think there's more responsibility. So the consequences of playing a wrong note are way more on a bass because it's kind of like because it just cuts. It doesn't cut through everything, but you feel the mistake. Whereas on guitar, which is kind of sprinkled on top, it's like, oh, was that a mistake? Oh, I don't know, it's gone now.
You've gone like full on bass rig mode, though, haven't you? You've got like a proper bass rig.
Well, yeah, I've gone basically, like basic pumpkin spice latte, industry standard. So I asked a couple of bass players about like bass heads and stuff, and they were like, these are great. And it's I've got an Aguilar head. I think that's how you say that.
Yeah, the little grey one.
Yeah, it's like a tone hammer,
Yeah, that's right,
500.
yeah.
So I've got one of those, and it came recommended by quite a few people. And then I've just got a Mark Bass 210 maybe. It's quite lightweight for what it is.
I think they got neodymium speakers in, don't they?
No idea.
Yeah, I think they do.
Bass go boom. So yeah, I've got that. And actually, this is sacrilege against you, Tom. Is I've been using the Dual Fusion as like a bass distortion. So things like
Listen,
song 2 or No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age, I'm there like boom, boom, boom,
Listen,
boom.
it's been used on Oasis songs, on official Oasis gigs, so don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah. But it works
It's
quite
been
well.
used to play Wonderwall. It's all right.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
It's it does the left hand side I've been using. It's does the business.
That's interesting. That's cool.
What? Noel Gallagher's got a dual fusion.
Yeah, he had a dual fusion on his board for ages. the least fusion like use of a dual fusion ever.
Is incredible.
Yeah. It was. I don't remember. It was quite a few years ago, but yeah, you had a dual fusion going on.
Like someone put a picture in like the Wampler tone group or something.
Yeah,
and it's like,
I tried to find it online, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, it did exist for a while.
I wonder
That's
where that's come from. Because no offense to you, Tom, but I don't imagine
He's a big fan. He's bought on legato lessons.
I don't imagine he's he's a fan of what you do.
I bet he would fucking hate it.
How rude!
Could you imagine
that's outrageous.
No, but he's hilarious though. I mean, when you hear them talk about stuff, it's just unintentional comedy geniuses. So
No, absolutely.
I wonder how it got there.
Right, I've found the picture of the board.
Nice.
Okay, you're gonna have to. Yeah, Dan, you have to get that to Dan to stick in the stream.
Yeah, send it to me on
show notes.
Slack, because if we send it to me here, it's going to mess with the boxes.
Hang on, I'm going to send it to you now so you can click on it.
In fact, there is a clip of Noel talking about jazz, isn't there? Like,
I'll tell you what, it can't be that long ago
really
either,
amazing.
because that's a new dual fusion. It's from 2021.
oh,
There you go, you see. I told you it'd been used on Wonderwall.
amazing,
Right.
absolutely amazing.
You got it, Dan.
Yeah. Let me just click some buttons right here.
It's just my influence spreading across all realms of the guitar world.
It's unstoppable.
Can you imagine if Noel Gallagher played? Can you hear that?
You need original sound, mate.
Oh, hold on.
No.
Hold on. If he did that little lick.
You're
Be
my
amazing.
wonder what.
Oh, you're in one ear now, Tom.
It's all right. I'll turn it back up again.
All right, you should be able to see that. It's sort of top left.
Oh, have you put it on the stream? That's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's not come through yet. Oh, on the actual stream.
I might be able to zoom in a bit.
What, like my camera is doing right now?
There we go. Top left. Don't know what else is on there. It's got Flint.
You're my dual fusion.
I would love to know, because I reckon that's from a recommendation.
Yeah, from me.
Well, I wonder.
It's after he bought on my legato lessons. I told you, Dan.
It might,
He
don't know why you don't believe me.
He knows Dan and Mick, doesn't he? He knows that he's been on that pedal show. He knows.
Yeah, that was
I'm
after.
sure
That was after that, though. That was
Dan
after
must have
that.
built his board.
What if
Yeah,
it's
I
like?
presume so.
What if it's like someone like Johnny Marr, because he loves a pedal. What if
He
like?
loves his fusion legato too.
Well, weirdly, I have it's not a direct line, but my drummer mate who I gig with, Johnny Marr, has a space in the studio in the mill in Stockport, so I could potentially solve this mystery. I could go, right, mate,
It'd be funny to
can
find
you
out,
ask
wouldn't it?
Johnny Marr this, and then if he doesn't know, can you get him to ask Noel and get back to me? Where did you get that pedal from, lad?
Well, you're from Manchester. Maybe you're the weak link.
I'll just
Maybe
go
it's you.
outside and shout, he'll hear me.
Amazing. That's hilarious.
So yeah.
So there we go. Anyway, sorry, Dan, you were saying about bass.
Oh yeah,
Derailed you with
doing
Noel Gallagher's pedal board.
just doing bass gigs. That's pretty much it. The other thing as well, actually, is when it comes to cramming tunes, if you're on guitar and you're not quite sure if like it's like a B section or a bridge or whatever, you can just delay yourself for like just a split second and go, oh cool, this is where we are now. You can't do that as a bass player. You have to know. You have to know the song. So yeah, it's been interesting. But you know, it's a bit of fun, kind of helping a mate out, but apparently I'm a bass player now. Still wouldn't call myself a bass player, but it's you know, it's been fun.
Nice. What have you been up to, Beebs?
Yeah.
I've been getting on, keep on trucking, making videos, editing videos, capturing my Friedman with the quad cortex, capturing that. So going down one of my Beebs shaped rabbit holes, you know, trying to resist trying to not give in to my worst impulses and like do a capture of every single setting on the amp. So but yeah, I think I've been enjoying that project. And what else have I been doing?
Still not played that amp.
I bet you'll
never even heard it.
I bet you'll play the capture before the real thing, won't you? Because when I share the things on the quad cortex, you'll
probably. Jake's just lolled at that pedal board picture. That's funny.
Yeah, Bobby's in the chat. Hey, mate. Yeah, so what else have I been up to? I've actually been practicing again a little bit. We'll maybe get onto that a little bit more as we talk about Dan and my Dull Standards Club, but a little bit of dusting off the practice.
Dustin Hoffman?
Actual guitar practice. Yeah. No gigs at the moment. That's all quieting down, so nothing now until I had one fall through the other day, which is why we ended up doing that thing with Dan. So that starts up again after we've got a video shoot with you, Tom, next week, and some half-term stuff. Sarah's off. Yeah, that's about it, really. Enjoying making things. I think that's been fun at the moment. I'm getting into a bit of a rhythm, bit of a groove with just making stuff, and it's good fun on all fronts, really. And yeah, quite happy with guitar at the moment, which is a nice place to be in.
Nice.
Yeah, I've hardly played anything because of being on tour for so long and then having a few weeks off. You know, yeah. I've hardly played any guitar, and then suddenly thought, okay, well, I'm going away next week on Friday. Or Thursday, I think it is. Better do some practice because we're playing in South America and it's big audiences. It's going to be like they're always crazy for these guitar. Well, actually, they're not clinics; they're gigs, really. So yeah, I better do some practice coming up very soon.
After a big sort of leg of a tour, though, I imagine your chops and everything and your general playing level is probably quite up there. You're probably quite match fit. But how long does that stay these days, do you think?
Nah, not very long.
If you had a week off, do you think you'd be
if you
didn't touch the guitar, do you think you'd be fine when you went back?
No.
Oh, okay.
Fine with the forms. Yeah, I wouldn't have to think about any of the forms, but it would take me 2 or 3 gigs to get back into playing at the level I was when we left. So, but by the time, because we did a lot of shows in September, I think it was September, beginning of October, my playing was really like on form, but I haven't played properly, like practice properly for 2.5 weeks. And now it's really like down there again. I need to start working hard on it again next week, just so I can make sure that when we do the first show in Guatemala, because it's going to be 22 hours of flying. So I'm going to come off the plane. I can't remember whether the clinic's the same day. I doubt it is, but if it's not, it's the following day, obviously, after 22 hours of travel. I've got to make sure that I'm on form. So I'm going to have to do some practice for that. And that's just physical stuff. It's just physically feeling comfortable on the guitar. That's all that is. But the forms are all like nailed in. We've played them so many flipping times now. Don't really have to engage the brain anymore for that. But the fingers, I'm getting old. My fingers don't work the same way they used to. And I'm not being stupid there. That's actually genuinely the case.
Didn't Ed Sheeran sing about that?
Did he?
No, it's,
Fingers don't work like they used to before.
no, it's interesting. The thing you said there as well. Like, so I had these bass gigs Thursday, Friday, and then I had a Swing Commanders gig on Saturday, and I was so tired by the Saturday because the 2 bass gigs were like in town, 3 sets, and you don't start till 10:30 kind of vibes. So it's like back to back 3 a.m.ers, and then trying to do the day after, and I did feel it in like my shoulder. I've been feeling it a lot in my like right hand, specifically like here.
I was going to ask about the bass stuff and the stamina.
Not necessarily from playing bass, but just I've noticed recently, like the swing gig, if the sound isn't great or for whatever, you're playing a bit harder than I normally would. You imagine if I'm doing like, I'm not doing this in all of the songs, but it's quite a lot of like kind of like 4, semi 4 to the floor or variations of that. Imagine how many times you do that over the course of 2 hours if you're doing it on most songs. Like this part here, from like there. I don't know the science, but if I'm hitting the strings a bit harder than I normally would, I've been proper feeling it here to the point where it feels really like this feels quite tense. And then it's not this anymore. It ends up being a bit more this, which is, I assume, quite bad. But yeah, I think that Father Time, dare I say it, that portrait of Dorian Gray that's in my attic, starting to creep up on me. So it'd be, I might have to do is it the John Petrucci Rock Discipline where the first thing is like all this sort of...
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's all that business. I might have to do that before I, before I get going.
I do the Bill Evans thing when I'm away, and I'll put my hands in, Bill Evans, the piano player, put my hands in hot water, like fill a basin with hot water and stick them in, because otherwise they take 2 songs to work properly.
I think I've heard Vi talk about that as well, I think.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Certain gigs,
I always run it under the hot tap. I don't, but just to try and get the blood flowing a bit.
Does seem to work for me quite well. But these days, like our set doesn't start off particularly technical, so it's quite easy to warm into. But when we used to do the old clinics, I used to play like a full-on fusion thing at the beginning with backing tracks. I remember sometimes we'd start the show and I'd be like, just first solo would start and I just had nothing in the tank at all. It was a horrible feeling. Just an awful, awful feeling when the fingers just were, when the fingers kind of lag a 30-second note behind what you're doing.
Oh yeah, man.
When you've got
I've got genuine
and then add the brain like an eighth note behind.
Brain rubbery slippage, yeah, exactly, yeah. Or muscular rubbery slippage. That sounds awful. Let's not go there. But you know what I mean.
Oh, Bobby's just said he gets out on the disco gig, like 2 hours of 16th note strumming. That's even what you're doing twice the work I am. Oh no, wait.
Well, not really. You've got to go back up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you are hitting you're getting the extra resistance of the strings as you're hitting back up again, so which is going to be more wear and tear.
And he's doing the ones that go against gravity as well.
Yeah.
So in a way, he's doing significantly more work than you, Dan, you lazy bug.
Yeah. I wonder about people that do like the Gypsy Jazz guys, where it is acoustic. It's not really amplified for the most part, and your volume is just literally how hard you're hitting the thing. I wonder how those guys go on. Like, be interested.
Yeah.
I have done that. I've definitely done that gig, Bobby. Enjoyable gig.
Most of the set with my gigs is that kind of stuff. It's the sort of funk, disco, soul, Motown thing, where there's a lot of that going on. A lot of Chic, Nile Rodgers thing, which can be, if it's cold, or if you're in a marquee or a TP or something, and back end of the summer, it's not fun doing that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, in short, we're all old and falling apart.
That is absolutely the truth. Absolutely true. I'm absolutely shattered today as well. Like I was.
Me too. Yeah.
I don't have a kid, but got 5.
What about you've got 3 of them? Oh yeah, you've got chickens now.
You've got chickens, you've got cats.
That's really being in the garden.
I said 3 of them, but it's the ones that live outside as well, aren't they? So there's
Well,
five.
but-
Five.
Yeah, so it's 5 cats, 3 chickens. So
It's
yeah,
gonna be like Madagascar in your back garden soon.
that,
It's a big crate.
they
with a
are
giraffe
quite
in it.
cool though. Dan met them last week. Dan met the chickens.
I did. They were kicking off with each other. There was some political kind of aggression going on.
Yeah,
They didn't play the
It's,
xylophone
they
for
are.
me, though, which I was a bit upset about.
Mm.
I've sampled it. I've sampled them doing it, and I'm going to have to do it in D, but I'm going to do the chicken.
Oh, nice.
Oh my god!
So
What, you've sampled them doing
played
what?
enough. They've played all the right notes for me to sample to get the da 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 on the xylophone. So I'm going to like,
Have you filmed them so that you can get the head like tilts in time?
yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Is this going to be one of those like 1%?
This is
Talent,
what
99%
this is what you
editing.
can
This is going to be BB's singular viral moment on the internet.
This is content.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've got so that's going to be, this is what you can do when you oh dear.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as far as
I said I've been enjoying making things.
Apparently
that's what I'm saying
so.
with this time. I guess moving sort of into we don't really have a main topic, but me and Beebs met up last week, IRL.
We did.
That's in real life for the old
Meatspace.
people. Yeah, meat space, 3-dimensional meat space. It was good. We've kind of threatened it a few times, but I think I was ill one time or something else came up, and then we actually made it happen.
I think
But
I was on one time as well.
yeah, we did the meeting up and playing some tunes. In hindsight, I feel kind of
So
bad because I feel like I just called all the tunes. I was just like, oh, I was just making you play all my stuff. I say my stuff.
I'm quite
my
up for
picks.
that though. I'm quite keen because I think that pushes me in a different way.
I was going to say that's what
So
always
I'm
happens to BB. He's always
I'm
getting
al- yeah, but
bullied
this
into
is-
playing tunes.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. But
He's a
that's-
receiver.
I mean, on it, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. If you think what you were saying earlier on, Dan, about how good you get, and this is not to say, I'm not saying that I'm good, but
This
my
was
relative
pre-stream.
improvement. Oh, was it pre-stream? Okay. Dan
Yeah, we
earlier on was
weren't
saying
live.
about
I
if
basically
you-
just, I said, yeah, if you, like, we met up and just sort of played a few tunes, and there's something about just 2 people and 2 guitars that means you've got to switch on a lot of things. And then we came across a couple of things, and then we're like, oh, chatted about this or that. And if you did that all the time, and you had like a regular outlet for that, I think it's probably how the old school social kind of folky exchange of ideas with instruments kind of thing works. But I was just saying, if you had that all the time, you'd probably, one, you'd both pull each other up, but 2, you'd kind of expose yourself in a way of like, oh god, I need to work on that, or I don't really have much for that, or like you'd find these, you'd find what you need to practice because you're doing it in a real scenario and going, oh, I need to get that sorted, or I would like to get that sorted, and then you have a reason to get it sorted because you're coming back next time, and you want to bring, it's like you want to bring something else back to the gladiatorial ring, as it were.
What did you play?
That's exactly it.
What did we play? We played There Will Never Be Another You for a bit. We played
Deed I Do.
Did I too? Yeah. There's like a couple of like Louisiana Fairy Tale. It's like a sort of New Orleans kind of 1-7-4 minor thing that's just fun to play over. Wasn't there another one? Oh, I was talking about the sort of gypsy one, which we didn't get around to, but
there was. I've got my list.
He's a man with a list.
I've also got Tom's list as well.
Mine's just very different.
I've got
The number of chilies next to Tom's list is like a 4.5, 5. Mine's 1. It's comma.
mental.
I actually think I'd find your stuff harder, Dan.
Oh wow.
So okay, so this is what we did. I think someday my prince will come. Dido do. Obviously, Stella.
Isn't that a police
Did
tune?
we do? No, we don't. I don't think we did even played Stella, but I just assumed we did. Uh, Louisiana Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
It's a Sin to Tell a Lie.
Yeah, that started, I think, the diminished thing, and then I think we played the first 2 bars of Stella, but then we got hung up on the whole diminished thing, and then that that was
Well,
the
you went
next hour and a half.
down a bit of a Mike Marino death spiral.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
it's,
wasn't there
it's a
another
Pete,
one?
Pete Bernstein spiral. But yeah,
Oh, is it? Okay.
yeah.
There was another tune, and you said, "Oh, it was the ending of There Will Never Be Another You," and you were saying that
Oh yeah,
Mike Marino.
yeah,
Is
yeah.
it Mike
The
Marino?
original
was saying,
changes to Mike Marino's original. Well, not Mike Marino's, but the original changes to Never Be Another You with Mike Marino's with Daddy telling us what to play in that. Yeah, so there's some interesting changes at the end of that, which is another diminished thing. But yeah, it was really good fun actually. I really enjoyed it, and I think what I was sort of getting at earlier on in that how much I'm happy to be bullied into playing things that are different and I don't know, because I think of how much I've benefited from that and how much I've been improved from playing with people better than me doing different things. I'm incredibly grateful to be in that sort of power bottom receiving position. I think it's
Little Spoon, Standard Boy.
Well, it was good because the tunes that I was like coming up, like sort of saying, "Oh, let's try this or try that." They're not particularly hard, but there's enough in them that you can like. They're not easy. Like I'm making out like. Yeah, I'm making out like
it's hard to say anything interesting though for me, because that's outside. A lot of it's kind of more outside of my comfort zone. So I think I can play the change, I can make the changes and outline the changes, but saying something of interest is harder with it. I find that more kind of challenging. Although it's getting easier, I definitely find the more I go down the kind of, I'm just gonna end up becoming what I hate. But the more I go down that sort of, it's just that sort of traditional mode of like just looking at language, looking at the moral, the ways of doing things, just opening my mind. That's like it does become a bit easier. But it is definitely not my instinct, because I made all of my, when you go to the gym and you get what's called beginner gains.
No,
you've come across that term, beginner gains.
No, I don't either.
When you go to the gym, like when you very first start, like there's this brief period where you can get really into it, like, and you're doing it a lot, and because you're going from absolutely nothing, you get these things called beginner gains, where it's quite a rapid increase, and then you kind of just like plateau, and you get lost on the Ross Campbell lost intermediate plateau, which is also Ross is into gym stuff as well. And anyway, so I think that I forgot why I was even bringing that up there. But I think that you can like max out those beginner gains, and then knowing what to do next is or finding sort of quite a strong like emotional or kind of like sentimental attachment to what you did that made you a lot of progress in the beginning can sort of warp your mind to changing and trying other things. And that's what I've been trying to get around just lately, is just trying to be a bit more open-minded to different things to try. But that's because I remember when I was jamming with Tom a lot, I was and you, Dan, and some other people, I was making such quick rapid progress that I'm really attached to whatever I was doing then because of that rapid progress. And now that's not sort of working so well in terms of the increase is not coming as fast as it was. It's like,
it's like somebody
between, do I look backwards and stay really attached to that, or do I sort of like think, oh, do I try something different and be a bit more open-minded to it? So there's this tension in my mind as to what's going to be most productive to keep moving forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember that feeling when I was at Leeds College of Music and I'd sit down and jam with people who were way, but especially between my second and third year, and we'd play Kenny Wheeler tunes, and I could just about make the harmony, but I was fighting for my life. It's a little bit like if someone threw you in a pool and you didn't really know how to swim, you'd stay afloat, but you certainly wouldn't invent the butterfly. You'd take you a long time to learn how to do that properly. but you can just about stay afloat. And that was my experience. And then suddenly you find you're not staying afloat anymore, and those things are easier. But with your stuff, Dan, I think the thing is that there's so much actual specificity to the vocabulary. Same as those with bebop. You know, it's like I don't play bebop because there's so much specificity to the vocabulary. But I think even with bebop, I can get away with it to some extent because there's so many changes happening. Whereas with some of your stuff, there's maybe slightly less. I say your stuff, you know what I mean? Like slightly more New Orleansy stuff, slightly more swing-based stuff.
It was, you know, it's change. There's definitely like a vocabulary to the changes.
Yeah.
It's not
it's like if I try and play, you know that song G Baby is it G Baby Ain't I Good to You or something?
Yeah.
I find that so ridiculously hard to play well over. It's really hard.
Have I spelled diminished wrong? Cordy's in the chat.
Yeah.
Have I spelled it wrong?
What's he saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been called out. As if I'm getting a spell check from Cordy.
Tell Cordy not to bring those kind of issues into focus.
Well, yeah, that's it. Like it's stones in glass houses, mate. Stones in glass houses.
Sort your own house out first.
Anyway, back to the task at hand. We won't worry about the
Although I would say, just before we do, that diminished is one of those things that just does not fit under your fingers on a keyboard. Like the number of times I've spelt diminished wrong on a keyboard is just outrageous.
Exposed. Anyway, it's rage bait. It's content. That's what people are doing these days, isn't it? I'm engagement farming. I spelled it wrong on purpose, Cordy.
Cordy's not in focus in his own house. His wife can't see him most of the time. He's out of focus in his own house.
It's just walking.
Yeah, we know you're in focus, Cordy. It's just fun to take the piss out. Yeah, that's all. You know, as you do. He's the pro now. He's Cody's the pro.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, he really is, because I released my first YouTube video today since the beginning of June, I think. So my output is significantly lower than Beebs too, but Cordy's.
No, but like I think Cordy's more prolific than, I don't know, Joe Rogan or someone.
Yeah, but he's not interviewed Trump, has he? So he's got the hat.
He's got the hat. Yeah.
It's all gonna come out at some point that he's got like a very right wing twin.
I feel it's a bit unfair because he's
tag in and out, and that's how he gets so much content out. It's
not
like the Parent Trap.
Himself.
Anyway, what I was saying is, yes, with that stuff, there is, like, I wouldn't say I'm like super vocabby with that stuff, or if I am, it's not through trying, it's just through maybe hearing it quite a bit and making choices that go sort of, you know, with that stuff. But there's definitely like there's definitely some harmonic sort of vocabulary, and it's probably there's a couple of tunes that we did where that diminished thing was in there, and that sort of tonic or flat 3 diminished is they're definitely like the tonic diminished thing is like, I feel like it's quite an old school thing. It just sounds like Sleeping Beauty or something every time you play it. You know what I mean? Like if you go one diminished, it's got like a very old school thing about it. So yeah, so there is that, but I know what you're saying. If you think in terms of I've got to hit the vocab, maybe you'd sort of feel, you know, in a bit of trouble, but I don't know.
You know what? A lot goes a long way, and this might sound really daft, but just and this maybe comes on to what we're going to talk about with perhaps the diminished thing, but like being a little bit more, and again, I hate it. I become what I hate, but like being a little bit more on those five chords, like altered 5 chords, like just having the regular 5 in play.
I mean, I never play it too much as a regular 5, but it does seem weird if you send up the altered thing straight away.
But that's what I mean. If you're always if you're always either side of 5, I think that comes into having the like a certain effect or sound on it that's further away from the kind of thing that you're talking about in the stylistically now.
Yeah. Like I'm more likely to play, like if I'm trying to sound somewhat in keeping with the style, I'm more likely, if it's a 5 chord, I'm more likely to do like a augmented or like whole tony kind of thing, because that's a bit more.
Oh, in that
Yeah,
stuff,
in keeping than the altered thing. All of which I'd still do anyway. It's like it's whatever. Are we going to get Cordy bombed? Is that what's going to happen?
I don't think so.
We'll see what happens.
So I think one of the things that is interesting to talk about is just some of the stuff that some of the skills that are interesting or useful when it comes to playing stuff like that. And what you're laughing at?
just because we know Cordy, when he even typing, I can hear the smam. I can hear the trolling.
I know exactly.
I got a sneaky bit of practicing this morning, and augmented on the 5th is a bit of a cheat code to sound half okay. Anyway, it's actually a really good place to start in terms of if you're trying to get attention, because if 5-1 and you go into a major, it sort of goes up to the major
but
third.
like then are you really? Is it the augmented 5 or is it the flat 13?
I mean, if it's just one note in the moment, if a tree falls on an altered chord, like, I guess it depends what you're thinking at the time, doesn't it?
I think.
Oh, that's funny.
What's happening now?
It's just such a guitar hour conversation, is it? Is a flat 13 or a sharp 5? That's just funny. Sorry, I'm tired.
I'd just be like, I'm thinking of that note, and it's going to that note, and I'm filling in the gap to create tension. That's as far as that would go, unless I was doing something else.
So what's the diminished thing you've been talking about?
Oh, just the same old thing I've bored you to tears with so many times. I think I can't exactly remember it. Dan actually might have asked, though. I don't think it was. I don't think I just went up to him and said, "Have you heard about the diminished?"
Have you got a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, the diminished God?
Diminished.
Did he knock on your door in a black suit, Dan, with some very polished shoes on?
Chase me down the street with some pamphlets.
Hand you a leaflet, yeah.
No,
I think
Dan did ask.
There's like two sort of nudgy kind of chord changes in It's a Sin to Tell a Lie, and one of them is like a flat 3 diminished going to 1/3, I think is what it is. Is that right? I think it's like an E flat diminished going to
Which
C
one are you
over
talking
E.
about? Sorry.
It's a Sin to Tell a Lie. So it's like a E flat diminished going to C over E, and it's like this kind of like, to me, the sort of nudge in thing is because it kind of sounds like it's going. It's almost like almost like a 5-1 in a way, like the way it sounds, but it's kind of just nudges in. And then there's another chord change in that tune that does a similar thing, but it's not that. So we were just talking about, like, I think we both said it's because you said what you wanted to work on, or like a couple of things that you wanted to do is you wanted to do this tune or that tune because you want to try and get some diminished stuff going. And then that I was like, this tune's got one in it. And then what else did we talk? We talked about Smile because there's one in that as well. We were just kind of like talking about tunes where it's there, and then like testing the theories in a way. Because I was just like, if that comes up, for the most part, I'll just hit the arpeggio and just like or fill it in with some chromatics or something. Because a lot of time it's not there for that long, so it's like I've kind of shirked my responsibility on those chords for a while.
Which sort of makes it more annoying, because then, even though it's not there that long, it crops up so often in so many standards, and not always just as a disguised 5 chord, although see many are. But it's do
you want to say specifically which ones we're talking about for the players at home? Like which diminished chords we're talking about?
What specifically the functional? The diminished 7th? What do you mean?
Just like that, because there's a couple of different diminished chords where we're fine, and then there's like a couple where there's a specific type where we're like, these are the ones that cause issues.
Yeah, so it's where like things that are going like I was found the biggest one for me was descending. So between chord 3 and chord 2. So when you have like chord 3, minor 7, then going down to a flat 3 diminished 7 and then to chord 2. It's that movement that's always I found difficult to to play with any sort of sense on it or logic or melody, or I often found that hard to think and play through. So I think that's like end of all the things you are. Again, end of Prince will come, or I think that is it. No, it's not in the middle of that. Um, that's the one I found tricky.
Yeah, there's a few. But I'd be interested. What's your thing with this, Tom? You're
It's
usually
changed
the
over the years.
oh,
It used
right.
to be when BB and I were having our big discussions about it. I was very much about a scale-based approach for it, which would I'd sort of talk a good game and then default back down to a diminished whole half scale.
Right.
Which I
But
think is
never,
what I used to do, and then get annoyed at
yeah,
myself
yeah,
for it.
same, exactly the same. So I'd be like, oh yeah, harmonic major scales and all this kind of stuff, and I understood it and still do, at least to some extent, because I haven't done it for a long time. But if I'm playing over like that last bit of all the things you are, for example, so you're talking about the bit that's like D flat major 7, D flat minor 7 of some description, C minor
C
7 as a
minus
Phrygian
7.
chord, B diminished.
Yeah.
Now I will see the arpeggio, so B, D, F, and A flat, I guess you could call it. We'll just call it that for
G
now, just
sharp.
for the sake of argument. Yeah, just because it's easier to think of it that way. I don't know if I've ever said this to you guys, but I hate the note G sharp. I'm sure I've said this to you before, baby. I can't visualize in G sharp anything. It's just awful. So I think of I mean, I'm not thinking the note name anyway, but just for the sake of argument for the listeners. So yeah. Uh, Hang on, let's turn original sound on. My guitar's going to sound lame because it's just not plugged in. But so B, D, F, and I'm going to call it A flat for my own brain. I can see all of those intervals, the 1, the flat 3, the flat 5, and then whatever you want to call this, the double flat 7 or whatever you want to call it. And rather than thinking about that diminished scale, because it makes me play stuff like it makes me play very shape based and scalically, I'll just think about those notes and play melodies with always knowing that I can approach all of those from a semitone below, because that's the way the scale functions. But then I'm not thinking about the scale so much. As in, I'm not thinking about the fingering, I should say. I should be more specific there.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about that fingering. This one, the... Sorry, I played the wrong one. I'm not thinking about that fingering. So it gives me the opportunity to, if you've got... like... You can play a little melody. I'm a bit less. I'm not playing as much on those diminished chords anymore as I used to. I'm not trying to play like really long phrases. I'm just trying to play little smaller bits of language and motivic things, because I feel like a fraud when I try and play things based on the diminished scale. And I've not done the work I've not done the emotional labor of trying to go through and play the thing that Kreisberg talks about, Beebs, on his website, where he talks about you have to start the scale in a certain place, and you have to, by doing that, you will resolve so that all of the diminished notes from the chord tones end up on strong beats, so on and so forth. So you actually outline it properly, as opposed to just being a bit lame and just playing through the scale, or playing things like I don't know, like all that kind of stuff. He has
it's
a
the
whole thing
Kreisberg
about...
stuff that sent me off down this several times, actually, because his he does a really deep dive into the origins of diminished harmony on his Explorations of Note membership site, which is excellent. And it's I mean, it's so deep. He goes right back to Bach. He goes back to like pre-Bach. It's like the where diminished harmony comes from. It's absolutely amazing. But you can take it. I think you can come in a little bit more modern than that for actually getting practical use and sense out of it. And he does talk about, like, in terms of the diminished scale itself, like it works when you are approaching it from below, but not so much as from above. But specifically in a functional harmony context, that's the doing the work is, as you phrase it, has definitely been something that we've probably talked about it on the podcast before. We went on a massive hiatus, actually, when I initially started doing this maybe a couple of years ago, but really approaching it from harmonic minor and harmonic major, and how does it function in the context of a tonal center? Because like when Dan and I were working on this the other day, it was just like he made a really good, interesting point, is that it sort of sounds like nothing happens, and that's a good thing. Like,
yeah,
when you approach it from like either of those within the context of the tonal center of the key, it's like it suddenly becomes that just a little bit more melodic, that little bit more, okay, I'm not just making this, I'm not playing a diminished arpeggio, I'm not like kind of brute forcing diminished scale, but the actual, still the kind of tonality of this tune still comes through, and it's a little bit easier to access, I think. But doing that, as you say, doing that work has been still an ongoing process. But Dan, yeah, there's a really interesting point Dan made when we were working through it stuff, is that it sort of sounds like nothing's happened, because normally when you get to that chord, you fire off the diminished flare, and that's,
well, in a way, like the changes playing thing, you kind of want it to sound like that anyway, in a way. Do you know what I mean? It's
Depends.
like, yeah, it
Like
might be, things might be changing, like there might be changes that happen that where, they're not like in a key and they're not close together. So something does need to happen in order for you to make that change and stuff. But as a general, if you're thinking about playing lines and stuff, is you want it to sound like nothing's really happening and you're just kind of going with what's there. You know what I mean? Like the obvious one is when people first learn the altered scale, and it's like maybe you've got a 2 and they're playing some nice minor 7 stuff or whatever, like nice minor kind of licks, because everyone's got minor licks by that point, and then the 5 comes up and it just does this sort of altered scale legato 400 miles an hour, like, and then it goes to the 1 and then it's like, oh, and now we're back to nice stuff that I know. Do you know what I mean? It's like it becomes nice stuff, then this event that we're getting through, and then it lands again.
But that's even worse for diminished, because it's the only scale that is so symmetrical on the guitar. So it's, well, apart from altered, you mentioned augmented chords and stuff earlier, it's the only scale that has that particular thing where you can, like, it's almost seen as a virtue and a cool thing that you can play the same thing up minor thirds, or you can play the same thing up a tritone, or you can play a major triad and then shift that major triad in this certain way, and it starts to, it works. That becomes the cool thing about the scale, as opposed to actually soloing with it in the same way that. So one of the reasons why, for example, people find it very difficult to solo with that scale motivically. So again, that thing at the end of all the things you are, you've got D flat major 7. So you could play 7 1 7. You could play the same for the D flat minor 7. For the you could actually play. You could play the same thing for the C minor 7. And then when you get to the B, if you take that up a semitone, because you're this note here, the D is the flat 3. If you know that you can play a semitone below that, but you're not thinking about the scale, you can approach it from a semitone below. So you've got this little, again, it's hard to do without 2 guitars, but think of that as like a melodic minor chord. think of that as like a Phrygian chord, you can start to think more motivically, as opposed to if I'm thinking like this big, that's much harder to think motivically with because it's symmetrical. I think anyway.
Well, at that point, people aren't thinking. It's like the chord happens,
Yeah,
and then they play some shapes, and
But
then it's like I'm going to try and resolve the end to land on a chord tone of the next chord, and then I'm going to, it's like it's not that you're out of control. It's you're sort of on autopilot and doing shapes. And
So
I try and avoid patterns, not avoid patterns, but like if I'm teaching people like to do some stuff, I add some like little patterns and stuff. Really, it's a combination of, because everyone's got patterns, but it's the combination of the patterns mixed in that makes something cool. If you do, if you just take like a minor scale and you're going too much, people catch on. But if you go you know what I mean, you use little chunks of it, it breaks it up, and it's not as like, people aren't going to be like onto you. You know what I mean? They're not going to be like, oh, this guy's just playing the scale up and down in a certain pattern. But because the diminished scale doesn't sound that different when you start moving through the patterns, it's very much, people are quicker to sort of, the ear is quicker to latch on and be like, oh, it's that thing again. You know what I mean? Which is fine.
Yeah,
which is fine.
I think if you've got strategies for how to approach each of the chord tones within that, rather than just thinking about the arpeggio or just thinking about the scale shape, if you've got strategies about how to embellish those arpeggio chord tones, then you don't panic as much when you see the chord, because if you can find all those chord tones and you can just play, like you can just play chromatically around those chord tones, it doesn't have to be a scale based thing. It's one of the only exceptions I would make to that, because I'm a very scale based player, scale chord associations
represent.
Yep. But with the diminished, I think I've started to move away from that slightly, unless I specifically want to play something quite like symmetrical and weird and interesting. Like if I want to play something like that, then that's a different kettle of fish. But if I want to play something melodic that fits with the rest of the way I've been playing, that's how I tend to think now. I think about the chord tones, and I know I can play a semitone below each of those chord tones, and that gives me enough. That obviously gives me 8 notes to play with, but I'm arranging them in my head in a different way to if I just saw the shape of the scale. Or if I thought 1, flat 9, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5. I thought about all of those intervals in that way. I'm not doing that with that particular harmonic device anymore, or trying not to.
It sounds like there's like Beebs was saying about certain things in the past, it sounds like all of us have like shifted slightly from our younger selves kind of I wouldn't say like absolute strict morals, but we've kind of all been like, oh, actually,
only on that one chord, Dan. Don't go overboard.
All right, the one chord has slipped through the Vulcan net.
Yeah. I'm still I mean that's true. I mean, I've mellowed. I hate to say this, but I might struggle to have a 2-hour conversation about one chord these days.
Oh,
I know, yeah.
He's been outside and touched grass in various countries. He's over it.
I don't know if it's that. I think I'm just getting older. There is a bit of that as well, and I'm not playing that kind of music as much anymore. So that part of my brain is not being bothered as much by this stuff. I'm sure if I started playing standards a lot again, and it was part of my bread and butter, and I was really into it again, I think it would start to, worry my brain a little bit more, and I start to think about it. But I'm just not doing that at the moment. I haven't done it for a long time. So, the last time I played standards with anybody was donkeys ago. So, in a proper way, like seriously thinking about how am I approaching these changes? It's just not what I'm doing at the moment, so it doesn't really factor into my brain. Still find it interesting, but I don't think I'd sustain 2 hours of thinking about it.
What was interesting actually is me and Beebs both kind of towards the end of maybe the back end of like the little hangout is we both kind of agreed that we're sort of in a place where it's not necessarily about the pursuit of knowledge for knowledge's sake with this stuff anymore. It was like, oh, I just quite like that tune and I'd like to be able to play over it. So it's more almost like you're just learning the songs because you like them, not because you're trying to do the thing, which I think is maybe when you're a bit younger and it's like, right, you need to do this, and like you know you're going, right, I want to get better at guitar. This is where I'm going. This is how I do it, and you're learning all these interesting sounds. It's a bit more, I don't want to say in the field because the other stuff is still there, but it was like, I just like this song and the changes are cool, and it happens to be a jazz tune.
There is like a buy-in though, isn't there, to some of that, where I think if you are, I don't know, it depends on how you're wired and as to what your natural aptitude and skill set is in the first place, but there is an element of that you've got to be able to do it, you've got to be able to hang. And I think some of my obsession was about playing catch up because was like, okay, I've got to get up to speed here. And I think there is a point now where when I'm playing certain tunes, standards, or when I'm playing that, my brain is shut off in a way that is a pleasant sort of experience, that is maybe a little bit more musical, a little bit more accessible, and I think that it allows me to be not as hyper focused and fixated on the. I think I'm always just going to naturally be interested in this sort of thing, but I can, like, you know, if I'm playing All the Things You Are or Stella these days, it's I'm not thinking about every chord. I'm not thinking about even every, you know, it's it is that stuff now on those kind of tunes. It does happen on a at the back of the brain, which is nice. It's not even like I'm sort of thinking about key centers or anything. It really is just, I think it must still be on some level happening per chord, or with the, you know, the key center and then zoomed in per chord, but it's just not conscious. It's very much at the back of the brain, and that's a really enjoyable process. Anything I've worked on that much. But Dan said something really interesting again about like chunking in terms of memorization, which might be another separate podcast or discussion, but thinking of things in
I believe the term I used was Lego bricks.
Lego bricks, yeah, of course. But that to me, I've been thinking about that a lot since you said it, Dan, because I've always felt like I've played better when I'm staring at the lead sheet, the chord chart, because it's prompting that next thing. But I think when you had mentioned this idea of like seeing larger chunks of information as one thing, and in terms of, maybe you mean in terms of function, I don't know if you do, but like to me, I heard it anyway as like thinking of like broader functions to back again, sort of back to the key, and that I think is maybe what's going on in the tunes that I do know really well. I don't think my subconscious is flagging I don't think it's memorized every single chord. I think it is doing the function, doing its functions. I don't know. It's hard to.
What I was saying is like,
it was interesting.
Rather than, I say this to like students and stuff as well, is like, when you're first looking at something, say there's, for instance, let's just say for argument's sake, it's one chord per bar, and there's 4 bars. That's a 4-bar phrase. When you look at that, that's 4 separate things initially. It's like, it's that chord, then it's that chord, then it's that chord, then it's that chord. Then maybe what you do is you kind of, if it was maybe like this, it's more down to like learning sort of pop tunes and stuff, but it does factor over, is say it does that twice, then your unit of 1 gets bigger. So your idea of what 1 is. So those initial 4 chords is now 1 line, and they're all stuck together. And then it happens again. So it's that same 1 thing twice. So you've got 2 of those 1s. Now if it so happens that that's the 8 bars of a verse, and that happens the same way, those 2 lines again later, those 8 bars now become 1 because every time it happens, it's that whole thing. When it comes to like the standards thing, it's more like, say it goes 1625. That is just that is one kind of navigational thing for me now. And there's probably a little bit of extra added stuff in there for me as well. Of like, I kind of think of it as like the 1 and the 6 sort of being home and in, and then as I'm approaching the end of the line, it's like, and then we're kind of out, and then we're back in again, or we're out and then we're going somewhere else. But I think just kind of lining things up as like little moves. I mean, it's probably that strategy probably works better, like how Tom was saying about like the kind of stuff that I was sort of calling, or the kind of tunes that get played quite a lot. Is you do see the same progressions. It's not like really far out wild, kind of modally fusion changes. It will be like
what I find really interesting about that is, so we had a support email to the for the Solo app a few weeks ago, where this just reminded me, and it still has to, what you just said there, Dan, and I'm totally on board with it, and I kind of agree with it, but it still has to sort of instantiate in the real world. And I just wonder, just as a question to you, it's like, you see that as one thing, but it still has to come out. Like, so is it that you are you saying that it's your subconscious that is like then tackling, like, because if it's like going 1-6, but the 6 is a dominant 7th chord, then you still got to tackle that and make it like appropriate to the chord tones and things. But it's like, so you're saying it's one thing, but it's clearly not objectively one thing.
I'm more for like memorizing it, I guess. More for like memorizing it
purposes, right?
So that you're not like, I'm on this chord and then what's next? Like my brain knows exactly where I am and where I'm going.
Yes.
So I'm already done the route planner in a way. It's not like I'm going, that's that one chord right now on this chord. It's not like 4 stops. It's like one journey through the 4 checkpoints rather than stopping at each one. And I know it's all the same thing, you know. But I think the outcome would
what
sound
I'm doing,
different.
I think, as well. But it's, I just wanted to check and ask that that's what you meant. That's how I heard it, and is what I think my brain's doing. But I wasn't sure, because we did have I had this sort of support email where I think there was a bit of confusion as to when we're talking about thinking in intervals or thinking of root notes. Somebody was a little bit confused about how you would then sort of transpose, and I think the sort of misunderstanding was that like I've actually got to do the conversion in real time, and I think some people sometimes misunderstand like sort of Roman numeral analysis or the natural numbers thing for means you don't have to do the transposing. It's like, no, you still actually have to do the transposing. It still has to go, you still have to compute that thing and get good and fast at doing it. It's just you have a systematized framework in order to how to do that. And it was a really interesting one. I'd never really particularly thought about it before, but I think maybe with a guitar or potentially a guitar or bass is that you could potentially literally only see one root note for your key and have everything as a relative shape off of that, which would be, if you are doing that, please don't. But an absolute nightmare, and crazy. But I suppose you could sort of, in theory, do that. But yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to just double check in with you on what you meant by that when you said that thing, because it was about memorizing chunks. Because
it just means that like for instance, after a while, you know, there's enough tunes where it's like, oh, I know that path. You know what I mean? Like 1625 or 1 dominant 625 or any kind of tritone subs or any of that kind of stuff, or like that 1 7 4 4 minor. They're all kind of quite common things, to the point where it's like, if you just say, oh, it's you could probably say to someone, like, this is the A section, it does that in that key, and then the B section does the, I don't know, bebop, you know, the sort of bebop bridge thing where it like goes up to the 3, and you know, you could literally just, someone could sort of say all that, and because you've done those same paths each time, like you're communicating in chunks then, rather than just going, it goes this chord, then this chord, then this chord. And in terms of playing, I think I would sound different if I I think I do sound different when I'm trying to trying to do it like not chord for chord, because I do play like that, but when I know the trajectory,
Yeah.
then you're like, so then you're playing a 4-bar phrase almost and aiming for the next sort of one, or you could go playing like an 8-bar phrase and just string something through it. It's not kind of it sounds more like this than this, if that makes any sense.
Well, and I think this is the thing where we kind of maybe I don't know whether in agreement or whether we or not here, but where's just seen his Cordy's face on the you've put that up.
It's been quite quiet.
That still has to go on though. You know, the idea is that you want it to sound like that, but it's like it still has to instantiate in the real world. So your brain has still got to be processing that in some way, sort of vertically, because you can't. It's impossible to make like chord 6 as a dominant 7th sound correct if you are just blanket ignoring the 3, you know, the regular 3 against it.
So no, I'm not doing that. That's not what's going on.
I'm not saying you are. Sorry, I'm not saying you are. But what I mean is like, it's the kind of traditional sort of like aphorisms or whatever is like people trying to say, oh, I don't think about, or some of the potential criticisms I've had or pushback against thinking vertically is like, oh, you don't want to sound like that, and you don't want to be thinking like that. You want to just think of the key and go that way. But I think it's a little bit of like just kind of smuggling in a lot of processes that have to happen still.
In reality, it's a combination of all of those things to the point now where it's probably comfortable enough that I can, you know, there's probably enough, not necessarily vocab, there's enough personal vocab or personal thing that it now sounds a bit more like this than like this. Do you know what I mean? If I was presented with something I never played before, I would still be, you know, doing it like that. But
I've been listening to the tunes you sent first on Spotify, Dan, anyway, and I will I'll try and get some stuff together for the next one. And actually we need to do the Triforce swing with Tom, so the 3 of us next time.
Yeah.
Need to get the
Triforce, as in Legend of Zelda.
That was my name for the 3 guitar video game jazz cover band that I was going to put together.
Yeah,
nice.
But,
that's a good idea.
I've only got one arrangement, and then I started another one, but got to be stuck with it. But we'll see. You know.
Yeah.
Need a bit of that done. Need a bit of that going on.
Yeah.
Baby's got no idea what that is.
I'm just happy to play. I'm just like the idiot.
It's just like, Garth in Wayne's World. I like to play.
Amazing.
I'm the kid who's got the controller that's not plugged in.
It's got the little brother controller.
Just watching the screen going, yeah!
I'm just like, yeah. I'm not doing anything.
And
it's
you
like
partook
my
in our Super Nintendo. You partook in our Super Nintendo live stream years ago. Can't believe we let you.
No, I know what I'm doing with Street Fighter 2, mate. I'll beat you all at that.
Yeah, but you don't know what I just played, do you?
No.
Amazing.
Right. I need a slash, so should we wind it down?
Yeah.
Stella by Starlink. Oh, well played. That's good. That's a good. Right. Thanks for watching, listening, everybody. I'll get this audio uploaded to the feed tomorrow if you want to catch it again, or on your podcast feed. And good to see you, chaps. And
yeah, sorry I was so tired.
No, I'm absolutely flagging as well now. I think it was only the talk of Diminished that got me sort of psyched up and amped up.
Fired up.
And I'm gonna crash again now. I'm gonna get that post Diminished chat crash.
I was going to say, I think I've reached a point where the term diminished does not stoke my fires in the way it used to. So apologies.
Oh, that's all right. Sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry.
I will stoke my own fires, diminish fires, and I'm going to go and shed some harmonic major now.
Good for you. Good for you, little spoon.
Screw you guys. I'm going.
Peace.
I'm going home.